Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Well, good morning, folks. This is Tyler Tallman. I want to welcome you to Legends in Leadership, episode number 69. I'm a family officer with the Carrington Group, and I want to welcome my co-host on today's podcast, Dr. Blair Ritchie, who is the Executive Director of the International Student Foundation. So it's just us two today, Dr. Blair, so we can't mess this up.
We'll do it, though. We'll do it. We'll find a way to mess it up.
All right. Well, we've got a prime guest, so the good news is she should be able to bail us out. We want to kick things off with a little bit of leadership trivia. We, of course, are fascinated by the stories of leaders who, like us, come from humble beginnings and then rise up as leaders to make a difference in people's lives. So, Dr. Blair, what do you have teed up for us today in the leadership category?
Well, Tyler, our guest today is an avid sports fan, so
we're going to talk about that. So.
I'm going to take us into the world of sports for today's legendary leader who is celebrating a birthday today. Now, I'm going to start with something you could appreciate, Tyler. What happens when a 5'9" high school junior becomes a 6'6" high school senior? Well, He gets invited to join the basketball team, right? I mean
Yeah, and then they watch me play and they immediately kick me off the team. So
okay, well this is where it changes a little bit. Today's legendary leader also had an SAT score of 1320. So, since his father was a retired United States Navy veteran, he applied for and was appointed to the United States Naval Academy. Now, interestingly enough, the Naval Academy has a maximum height requirement of 6'6". So to enter one of America's most vibrant leadership development institutions, our legendary leader, who by the start of school was now 6'7", had to get a height variance. Little did they know that he would become the first and only Naval Academy cadet to surpass the 7-foot mark. Now, that's way too tall to get appointed to a boat. So after 2 years of land service, our legendary leader began an NBA career that included a 10-time NBA All-Star award, 2 NBA titles, and 2 Olympic gold medals. But his crowning leadership achievement is the founding and funding of the Carver Academy that provides educational and leadership opportunities for inner city children in his now adopted Texas City. So who is this legendary leader? I'll be back at the end of the show, and I guarantee you guys are going to figure this out.
Ooh, that's a good one, Dr. Blair. I have to tell you that trivia kind of beats me up a little bit because, first of all, you talked about athleticism, which I struggle with on the basketball court, and then you had to go to intellectual capability with SAT scores, and I'm not very good at that either. So, feeling a lot of pressure today.
No personal reference intended, Tyler.
Well, I'm excited about today's guest, Susy Solis. So much to unpack with Susy. She is a journalist. She's an entrepreneur, a consultant who has used her platform to encourage and advise entrepreneurs and empower women and minorities. Solis is a media and communication expert. She spent more than a decade on radio and television and then later launched her own media consulting firm called Solis Media Strategies. Most recently, Ms. Solis came back out of her radio retirement and is a part of the morning show on 1080 KRLD in Dallas. Everybody knows 1080, which is one of the oldest radio newsrooms in Texas. But a lot of other interesting things that I can't wait to dive into today. She's collaborated with the University of Michigan Computer Science Department to create a couple of different applications, which I think are very interested in the leadership space. She was the 2017 Entrepreneur of the Year by the Irving Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And she was recently honored as a 40 under 40 by the Dallas Business Journal. She started off her career spending 7 years as a reporter in Dallas, and allowed her to really develop her extensive national network. But the most interesting thing is that she is a avid sports fan. And so I want to start off and talk about that. So being in Dallas as an avid sports fan, first of all, tell us, Susy, who is your favorite team and what is your favorite sport?
Well, that's a loaded question. I mean, I'm a big fan of all Dallas sports teams, right?
Okay.
Growing up, I played soccer. So, that's really my favorite sport, but my favorite sport to watch is definitely football. So I'm really concerned about this season, and I hope that we still have football. If not, I don't know what I'm going to do every Sunday during the fall.
Yeah, I know you covered a lot of interesting news stories when you started out your career. You were at Fox, correct?
I was at NBC5 and at CBS
NBC.
11.
Okay, NBC and CBS, and you had, of course, the opportunity, I know, to cover the Dallas Mavericks' amazing run in 2011. So you got to have a special place for Dirk and the team in your heart, right?
Oh my God, Dirk is definitely one of the nicest athletes, nicest people that you'll ever meet. And yeah, I did get the pleasure of interviewing a few athletes here and there during those really cool runs where we were in the playoffs. And Dirk is definitely one of the nicest people ever. So
Yeah,
I do love him for sure.
He is, and such a great person in our community and giving back. He spends so much time in the charitable space as well. Well, let's rewind the tape just a little bit. We want to hear about your leadership journey. You have been involved in a lot and done a lot. And so take us back to your childhood and growing up, and how did you end up in Dallas, Texas, in the journalism and news space?
Well, I grew up, like I said, playing sports. I played soccer pretty much my whole life. And, I always think sports is a really great way to get mentally tough. And I think that's why my parents put me in sports, also because I was a little chubby as a little girl. So they were like, girlfriend, you need to start running. So I really enjoyed sports a whole lot. And I thought that I was going to play college soccer, but I tore my ACL. And I still kind of wanted to stay in that space. And my parents, they wanted me to get into the medical field and all that stuff. And I thought I was going to be like, some sort of athletic trainer type. And then I realized one day when I was in like biochemistry class that I was looking around and I was like, this just really isn't me. And
you and me both.
So yeah, and I wasn't doing very well in school, as you can imagine. So literally the next day, I changed my major to communication and got an internship shortly thereafter at a radio station there in El Paso, which is where I'm from, where I grew up. And from there, that's really where my career started. I started in radio. I did radio for about 3 to 4 years. I was still in college, so I would work overnights. I worked from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and then I would take a nap, and then I would go to school the rest of the day. And so I did that for a few years until finally I got the opportunity to audition for one of their morning shows. And then I did a morning show for a few years called Mike and Susy Mornings. And it was a little bit different format than what I'm doing now. Now I'm doing news, but back then it was kind of like a fun morning show where we get to talk smack and make people laugh in the morning. So that's always fun. And but my goal was to eventually tell stories and be a storyteller as a reporter. And then I got an opportunity to work at NBC there in El Paso as a morning anchor. And I always tell people the story that it was 2007 and J-Lo was really popular, so everyone wanted Latinas on TV. So that was good for me. And I got a bunch of job offers a couple of years after that. And Dallas was the biggest market, and my brother already lived here. So it was really an easy decision for me to come to Dallas.
Yeah, the big D, great place to end up. There's always, it seems, Susy, in everybody's leadership journey, a couple of people that stand out that were maybe the difference maker for you. You know, you reach these crossroads in your life, and you can always remember that one or two people that just made a difference for you. So when you think of influences in your life that have really guided you, share a little bit of that with us, and what those folks have meant to you.
Well, my number one influence, of course, my parents. My dad really came from nothing, and my mom came from nothing. But growing up, we were a middle class family, and so I really didn't know any better. But growing up, we spoke only Spanish in the household until I was about maybe 9, 10 years old. And again, I was already playing soccer by that point. And I remember my mom telling us one day, okay, you need to speak English to me. I want to learn how to speak English. And so I asked her later on why she wanted to do that at that point. And she said, because when we would go to all my soccer games, she couldn't understand what the parents were saying. And she said she felt dumb. So she said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. So when I was that age, like 9 or 10, is when she started learning how to speak English, and she enrolled in college at the same time. And so growing up, I would always see her. She would record every class, and then she would be wearing her headphones around the house, doing laundry, and, being a wife and a mom. And then she graduated when she was 42. And of course, we were all there at her graduation. And so for me, that was something that really influenced how I saw things as a child. And it made me really realize that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always change your circumstances, and you're never too old to learn. And so I always saw my mom make that dream of hers come true, and said, what excuse do I have? I don't have 3 kids and a husband, and am speaking an entirely new language. So she was definitely my number one influence when it came to being a hard worker and really just doing whatever it is that you want to do. If you put enough work into it, you can do it. And then once I finally got into radio, one of my program directors, my very first program director, his name is Courtney Nelson, and every day after the show, he would make me listen to the show. We would have to do air checks. And it was so exhausting. I hated every minute of it, because every noise that he would hear that he didn't want to hear, he would make me learn how to control it. And, at the time, I really hated it. But in reality, it made me what I am today. And so, I always appreciate the work that he put in, and the fact that he saw something in me and knew that I would be able to be successful in this industry.
Man, you can really align that with just about anything, and what you're describing is this regular rhythm that you have to get into to become a true consummate professional. And whether it's listening back to the shows that you do, or if it's a sports star that goes through their daily grind and routine to become great, there's always room to learn, and there's always room to get better, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, and that's the number one thing that I have always told all of my employers is, I'm coachable. I'm the kind of person that I always want to keep learning. I feel like you never really know enough. I feel like, I'm at the point now where I have enough knowledge that I can share that information, but I'm still always learning and trying to get better, because there's always something new around the corner that you're going to have to learn.
Susy, everybody, it seems, has their greatest achievement and also their greatest failure that they learn and help them propel themselves through their professional career. And I'm curious, you've done a lot, and I want to get into some of that. But what would you consider your greatest achievement and possibly your greatest failure that you've really learned from, that's helped you through your journey?
That's a great question. I think my greatest achievement for me personally was at the time, when I started my own business, I had just left TV news. Everybody thought I was crazy, because they were saying, you're in the prime of your career. Why are you doing this? And I thought to myself, if it doesn't work out, I can always come back to news, right? And I really just made the promise to myself that I wanted to try it for 1 year. 1 year is all I want to do. And if it doesn't work out, then, I can always go back. And at the time, I was also going through a lot in my personal life. I had just gotten a divorce. And so it was just a very trying time in my life. And then to completely let go of that old life and then start a new business, it really is kind of crazy thinking back on it. But I think, my greatest achievement was building my business and being able to survive and do that for, 5 years, self-employed, until I got this job that really fell into my lap. But, for me, it gave me a lot of confidence, and it really kind of restored just the love for what I do. And it showed me that, again, I am capable of doing something that is really difficult and kind of powering through and figuring things out. And I think at the same time, when you're doing all of this stuff, like there were a lot of failures in that as well, because obviously I didn't know what I was doing. I really just kind of like threw myself in the fire and said, okay, let's see what we can do. And so there were a lot of failures in there during those 5 years that also taught me a lot of lessons. And I hesitate to use the word failure because I think so many people are scared of that word, and that's why they don't want to take that step to move forward and try something new. And in reality, failures are not failures. They're really just learning experiences, because you learn from every quote unquote failure, you learn how to do something better, more efficiently, how to handle a situation better, or if that's may not be the thing for you. So either way, you're going to learn something valuable from that quote unquote failure.
Absolutely. And gosh, such great words of wisdom and advice for anybody. I mean, I feel like every day of our life is some sort of new adventure. And oftentimes it doesn't work out the way that we want to, but we learn so much from those experiences. You use the word empowerment a lot, whether it's in a bio or the things that you're passionate about. And you talk about empowering women and minorities. Talk a little bit about that. I know that's a passion of yours and how you've been able to really empower women and minorities in your work.
Well, like I said, with my mom's story, that was a huge thing for me because I saw where she came from and where she ended up and what that did for her confidence and, her earning potential in reality. And me growing up as somebody who was bilingual and on the border, it's a different way to grow up. And in the Mexican culture, children are kind of seen like, hey, just be quiet, sit over there and be a good kid and be quiet, And so really I was a shy person growing up, and I was not like a loud person. And so for me to end up on TV and get paid to talk, for a living is just completely the opposite of what you would have imagined would have happened. And so I just remember, and I know, and this is why I do what I do now, I remember those feelings of insecurity that I had that kept me from not trying new things or trying things that in my mind I couldn't actually go through. And so, but finally pushing myself through those boundaries and then seeing that, it's not as bad as it is in my mind. And so that's why it's so important for me to help people push through those boundaries and really empower them to try new things and things that they may not have tried before, because I've been there and I know how it feels. And my mom has been there too. And she talks about it too, how that helped her so much with her confidence and her earning potential and talking to people and all of that stuff. So, for me, it's something that's really important. And also because, growing up, I didn't see a whole lot of people on TV that looked like me. And I'm talking about, journalists or whatever. So I definitely want to be that for other young Latinas who can say, hey, if she can do it, if she's bilingual, if she grew up on the border, if she came from these circumstances, then, I can do it too. And so I just think it's important to be able to be that for somebody else.
And I love that part of your story because, we at our foundation at ISF, we work with a lot of aged out foster care youth. And a lot of times they look at their background and their story and they feel the victim, right? They feel like, I'm a victim, and helping them break through that victim mindset and begin to see that even the hard places, that even the difficult places, even the things that are strikes against them can actually be turned around and become a platform for them to move forward. And I love how even some of those things that might look like a disadvantage can actually become an advantage if your attitude's right and you use it. And you've done that in a powerful way in your story.
Well, yeah. And, I heard the same thing from people when I got divorced as well, And for me, what I always tell people is like every day is an opportunity for you to change your narrative. Every day you can turn the page and write a new story. That's what life is about. That's the beauty of it. And so if you look at those things that happen to you, they're part of your story. They're nothing to be ashamed of. It's something that you can stand on that's made you even more powerful because you were able to move on from something that's so difficult. And now when you do finally power through it, that confidence that you get, nobody can tell you anything after that because you've been through so much. And that's the beauty of it, And so once people finally get that, you can see them soar. And that's why I love telling my story and I love helping other people get to that point.
Susy, you've covered a lot of stories in your career, and I'm just curious, and maybe there is or maybe there isn't, but is there a particular story that you covered that maybe helped you reframe your thinking on something, or really was impactful to you in the way that maybe you view the world?
I mean, there's tons of them, but one of the stories that I'll never forget that I really loved was a story about a little baby that was left. The baby was found, by firefighters or whatever. And so they were looking for the father of this child. And they ended up, the man somehow figured out that was his kid. He didn't know that the girl had the child. And he stepped forward and said, I want to be a father to this child. And he was a very humble guy. We ended up interviewing him at his apartment about being a new dad. And, he lived in a 1-bedroom, was certainly not child-proofed at all. He was just really trying to figure it out. And he was just so excited to be a father. And, he had just a very normal everyday job, but he was a huge Stars fan. So he had all of this like Stars memorabilia in his apartment, and it ended up being all over our story. And the next day I got a call from the Stars, and they said, we really want to help this guy out. We saw the story, and, we would love to give him a gift of some sort. And so we said, yes, of course, like we'd love to do this. So I called him, I did a follow-up interview. I said, hey, let's do a follow-up interview. So while we were in his apartment, we had Trevor Daley, who used to play for us years ago, knock on the door, and he looks out the window and he's like, can't believe his eyes. And he opens the door and he's like, hi. And then Trevor Daley says, it takes a real man to be a father. And we at the Stars wanted to give you start a college fund for your daughter. And we put $5,000, and then Trevor Daley put $5,000 of his own money. And by that time, everybody's bawling. And it was just a great, heartwarming story. And it really showed me, the power of the media, the fact that there are still good people out there. And that's what I love about what I do and being able to tell stories, is highlighting people that are doing things like that.
What a terrific story. And as an avid Dallas Stars fan myself, a little disappointing the last week or so, but
Yeah.
what a great story, and such a great representation, to your point, of exactly what we can do as professionals and as media members through this great city, come together and do amazing things for folks that really need it. As we start to get towards the tail end of the show, I want to hear a little bit about your career outside of the broadcasting room and the radio studio. Tell us about your media company, some of the work you've done. I know you've worked on some apps as well. So give us a little bit of flavor of what's going on in that space for you.
So how I started my company was, as a reporter, you're out on the streets every day. You're talking. I did a lot of crime reporting as well. So I worked with a lot of police and fire departments and breaking news. I was, a general assignment reporter. So I was pretty much everywhere. And a lot of these, I noticed that a lot of, not necessarily just police and fire departments, but really anybody, they could be great at what they do. And they could be amazing at their jobs, but when that little red light turns on, it would be a disaster. And I just thought, a lot of these people really don't understand what the media needs, what they want, and how fast they want it. So let me help, and I ended up creating a media training curriculum specifically for law enforcement, since I was working with so many cops and firefighters. And a lot of these guys, they're put in that position of public information officer and don't necessarily want to be there. Yeah. So, and they really don't know. They have no idea how that relationship should go with the media, or the kinds of things that they can do, or what we need as reporters. And so that's how I started my business. Is I would call all of the old, chiefs and PIOs that I used to work with and said, hey, I'm doing training now. What do you think? And they're like, yes, we need training. So it was definitely something that was needed out there. And I realized that pretty quickly, that a lot of people need this training and want this training. And so that's really how I started training people. And then I started training just other business executives, startups, and people like that. And so, for me, what it does is it allows me to give people the confidence to communicate effectively. And that's good for everybody in every part of your life, not just in business. So that's what I really love about my job. And as part of it, I ended up in Michigan, which is a whole other long story. But I ended up working with the University of Michigan, their computer science program, and their computer science students have to create an app in order to graduate. So you as a business go in and you pitch an app idea, and then the students choose if they want to work with you or not. And so with another company, I made a couple of apps, which it was a positive habit tracker. And then I'm creating one now for my business that's going to be out a little bit later this year, which I'm really, really excited about.
That is terrific. I'm curious, through your leadership journey, Susy, we always like to hear, is there a particular book or a piece of literature or podcast or something that you consume or have consumed that's really been a difference maker for you, that some of our listeners could go out and latch onto as a part of their leadership journey?
Well, I definitely think there's a lot of really, really good books out there. One that I use specifically for my business is called Words Can Change Your Brain. And it's really interesting to think about how really small things that you do can change your outlook. It can change how you communicate with other people, and then consequently change your relationships in a more positive way. So that's a really good one. But on a personal note, just because it's a book that I really love and is inspiring, I love The Alchemist, because it's really about, doing what your purpose is. And I always feel like a lot of times we lose that as we become adults and we start adulting and doing all the regular adulting things that we have to do. And we kind of lose that just the want and really that really hardcore desire to go after our dreams. And I think that's what The Alchemist does, is it reminds you that you may be a little bit older, but you're still a child inside. You're still a person. You still can go after those dreams, and you still can be inspired every day.
You could be your mom, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an inspiring 30 minutes together. It goes so fast every time. And Appreciate, Susy, you taking some time with us. But before we wrap up the show, we've got a trivia question. Dr. Blair, let's give Susy a chance at this. So what do you got?
So we got this NBA star who's kind of beat up on the Mavericks a lot. So you might get
don't
this
remind
one.
me.
So, I know. So who do you think this one is?
David Robinson.
You got the Admiral, right? The Admiral.
Way to go.
Way to go.
That
Great story.
That is impressive. That is
Wow,
terrific.
I didn't know he was that smart. I knew it was the Navy Admiral that kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
I sadly, I'm not a big fan of the Spurs. I'm a Mavericks fan. So.
Don't be sad about that. None of us on this call are excited about the Spurs, so we can beat up on them for sure.
I want to know what it's like to go from 5'9" to 7'1". Wait, what's that like about, man? In that span of time, that's a late bloomer, man.
Painful.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, expensive.
That's right.
Thanks, Susy. That was great.
Yeah, appreciate it so much, Susy. On behalf of the Carrington Group, ISF, and of course our special guest, Susy Solis. This is Tyler Tillman wishing you a good day. But remember this: if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. Have a great week.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by the Carrington Group. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. To learn more about the Carrington Group, visit their website at www.carringtonfo.com or Google Carrington Group, Dallas, Texas. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphaned youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. To learn more about ISF, visit their website at isfsite.org or Google International Student Foundation to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.